Before the Western world penetrated the heart of Africa, before Columbus discovered America, there was the great Zimbabwe, a city where farmers and traders made their living, leaving to scholars only traces of their ancient ways, but giving the country its name. The smoke that thunders, Victoria Falls. First seen by a white man in 1855. Missionary Dr. David Livingstone, escorted by Matabele warriors, stood in awe at the edge of the 100-meter chasm. That day, he recorded in his diary, "Scenes so lovely must have been gazed upon by angels in their flight." Into the Metopus struggled a covered wagon on a 6.5-month journey to Fort Salisbury. In 1891, the Enterprise brought to the capital city Major and Mrs. Pascoe and the Salvation Army. An army of love that has grown and flourished with the country. For almost a century, the Salvation Army has worked in Zimbabwe, remembering the past, building today, and facing the future with its own unique visions of Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, a land of mountains, plains, cities, farmland, and friendly people with strong family ties. But some have no family except their friends at Bumhudzo, the resting place, a ministry of the Salvation Army.
Before coming to Bumhudzo, there was no real home. Their vision of Zimbabwe was somewhere to work, eat, and live. A good life. As migrant workers, many left families in other countries to travel to this land of promise. But then they grew old. They could no longer work. And these people of hope became stranded in a foreign land. Fortunately, the Salvation Army saw another vision, one which takes these people from the streets to the shelter of Bumhudzo. The only place of its kind in the country, Bumhudzo only has room for 106 residents. Beds are placed close together to fit in one more person, yet there is a waiting list of more than 75. The men and women here all require medical attention. Half need minimal care and share a 2-bed room. Others require continuous medical attention and live in large wards. Bumhudzo strives to be self-sufficient in food, so the care and feeding of the chickens plays an important part, as do bananas and a prosperous vegetable garden. Judah takes special delight in his tomato crop. Once the gardener and cattleman at a Salvation Army boarding school, Judah, an active Salvationist, now lives at Bumhudzo. The kitchen is always a flurry of activity. With the dawn comes the smell of breakfast cooking. And throughout the day, the cooks are busy working over coal-fired stoves, preparing morning and afternoon tea and the noon and evening meals. Traditional maize-based sudza, a hearty piece of meat and vegetables from the garden, provide a healthy, well-balanced meal. Most of the men and women spend their day in the courtyard. Friendships are formed, and companionship grows. This couple was married at Bumhudzo. Sometimes communication is difficult because of a language barrier, but at Bumhudzo, the international language is fluently spoken, the language of love, easily interpreted by these people who for so long have been seeking to be understood and cherished. Martina came to Bumhudzo more than 10 years ago. No one knows how old she is, and understanding her is difficult because she speaks 3 languages at the same time. Communication does not necessarily mean understanding a language. It means giving, sending a message, loving and caring for someone who would otherwise be lost, all in the name of Christ. The Salvation Army officers and staff devote themselves daily to communicating the love of Jesus Christ, which brings vision and hope to the men and women of Bumhudzo. It's the message the Salvation Army of Bumhudzo has been sharing for decades.
For senior citizens whose families and doctors feel full-time medical care is necessary, the Salvation Army Athol Evans Home in Harare provides loving care in a unique setting.
Mornings at Athol Evans are sweet as nurses and staff begin a new day of service. After morning prayers, the care of each patient is discussed and instructions given for the day. The Athol Evans Hospital Home was built by a consortium of Harare service clubs and opened in 1980. The Salvation Army was asked to take responsibility for its management. Care is divided into 2 categories: for those who can get along with minimal medical supervision, and for those who require full-time attention. Though the staff maintain a strict level of sanitation and provide excellent medical care, their goal is to make each resident feel at home and among family. Leisure time is spent playing games, visiting with friends, or walking through the lovely grounds, a place of peace and relaxation for both residents and staff. For one man at Athol Evans, home and family have a special meaning. Makwiza was disowned by his family because they believed he was possessed by evil spirits. In desperation, he threw himself in front of a train which severed his legs. The police brought Makwiza to Athol Evans, and for the first 5 years of his stay, he never spoke. But through the love and patience of caring medical workers, Makwiza can now maneuver himself easily in a wheelchair. And he assists in the kitchen, washing eggs, cleaning vegetables, and filling salt and pepper shakers. The staff talks of his great sense of humor and perfect attendance at the weekly movie in the lounge. The Salvation Army Home has given Makwiza a new family and a new hope. Edwin is another Zimbabwean who calls Athol Evans home. He uses his talent as a pianist to cheer and encourage fellow residents. Once a highly popular concert pianist, Edwin performed regularly on television and in public appearances. Because of a medical problem, he now lives at Athol Evans and blesses the residents with his keyboard artistry. Edwin is active in community projects and organizes a number of benefit concerts in Harare, one of which will benefit Athol Evans. He hopes to become a Salvationist one day and use his gift in the ranks of the Army. The Salvation Army is known around the world for touching thousands of lives through medical, psychological, and spiritual care programs. But at Athol Evans, providing a home and family to those Africans in their twilight years is a vision from the heart, put into action every day.
Harare, the capital of Zimbabwe, founded in 1890, a shining example of modern Africa. Home to more than 500,000 people, Harare is also in the center of Mashonaland. The Shona tribe comprised 3/4 of more than 7.5 million Zimbabweans. The second largest city, Bulawayo, is 6 hours drive southwest of Harare. Bulawayo is the capital of Metabili land and is located on the site where Lobengula, last of the Metabili kings, held court. In the nearby mountains is buried Cecil John Rhodes, symbolic of his economic impact on the area. The city's Museum of Natural History is the focal point for studying the development of Zimbabwe. Independent since 1980, Zimbabwe is charting a course of progressive development. And alongside is the Salvation Army. In Zimbabwe, you are either in the city or in the sparsely populated countryside. 45 minutes south of Bulawayo is the Salvation Army's Usher Institute.
Usher began its education ministry in 1910. Salvation Army officer superintendents lived within these walls for 40 years, sharing knowledge and God's love. In 1954, the school moved to its present site and became a boarding school for girls. Today, Usher is home to more than 400 girls studying hard, developing into tomorrow's leaders. Because of the school's isolation, the students develop strong friendships. It's like a cocoon providing security, shelter from outside influences, and a warm, loving environment. That tranquility was shattered on June 7, 1978, during the Independence War. The school was closed until 1980, when the war was over. Salvation Army Lieutenant Diane Thompson and teacher Sharon Swindells are memorialized by an Usher dormitory named in their honor. Until recently, life was difficult at Usher. Police guards ensured the safety of the students. But the new Unity Accord will mean an end to the police presence. Usher is one of 4 boarding schools operated by the Salvation Army in Zimbabwe. The Army is also responsible for 14 secondary schools and 31 primary schools. The school motto, "To learn and to serve," finds daily practical application. Every morning, the girls are called to chapel at 6:45. Here, their education is put into context. This is a Christian school where reverence for God, His creation, and his son, Jesus Christ, is the foundation of learning. The curriculum is practical. In science class, the properties of soil, ecology, conservation, and everyday physics are studied. Time is scheduled during the day for students to work on mathematics, reading, spelling, and social studies assignments. Domestic classes further prepare the students for life after graduation. Some will return to their rural homes, while others, like 16-year-old Sikelela Bebe, will continue studying. Sikelela has been at Usher since 1984. Her leadership skills and academic achievements qualified her to be chosen head girl, the student's representative to the administration. After graduation, Sikelela will continue her studies, heading towards a career in veterinary science. Education is very important in Zimbabwe. It's one of the keys to a better life. Nowhere is this more evident than at the Usher Primary School adjacent to the Institute. Some students begin their walk to school before the sun rises. More than 250 boys and girls attend the school, where finding a cobra in the classroom or on the playground is a regular occurrence. University-trained teachers are appointed to schools in Zimbabwe.
My teacher is Mrs. Ingwe.
The Salvation Army recommends and chooses its own headmasters. Some of these students won't finish their school year. Helping with the harvest or tending to younger children can take priority. This dilemma prompted the government to launch a major literacy campaign designed to emphasize the need to read and write. As in all Salvation Army schools, the children understand life is not complete unless God is at the center. By the country's standards, the schools at Usher are well equipped, even though desks fall apart or have tops so scratched and carved they're impossible to write on. The school library at Usher Secondary is old and shelves are empty. Repairs sponsored by the parents of slain teacher Sharon Swindells will make sure the library can be used, even in the rainy season. But despite these problems, students at Usher excel in the classroom and on the sports field, where the teams are consistent winners. Isolated Usher, a friendly school with a proud tradition. More students apply for Usher than the school can handle. But for those who attend, Usher is a wonderful experience, preparing them for adult life with a continuing desire to learn and to serve.
Salvation Army-sponsored education of a different kind goes on in the hills of Mashonaland in north-central Zimbabwe.
Known as Chiweshe, it is sparse, miles from any metropolitan area, where the Shona tribe have lived for centuries in the distinctive, round, thatched-roof mud huts. In these hills, eking out a living in agriculture is difficult. Cattle, or mombis in Shona, find little nourishment in natural vegetation. Crops need constant attention, and forests have been stripped, leaving little wood for cooking and heating. Meet Ben Bafu, the farmer's friend. Ben is the Salvation Army agricultural extension worker based at Howard Institute. During the week, he spends time with area farmers, teaching them how to farm efficiently and profitably. For more than 100 farmers in Chiweshe, Ben's visits mean the difference between farming just to survive and producing enough to sell and provide more support for the family. Mr. Gomwe raises goats, chickens, and cattle. And it's Ben's job to make sure they're kept healthy and marketable.
Goats are generally destructive. They eat vegetables in the garden, fruit trees on the orchard. Trees must grow, and vegetables must be grown in the garden. And flowers around the home must grow too and make the home beautiful. So we cannot do that in this area with goats running around the home. So he decided to go into penning them. The quality of the animal is improved because it doesn't run around and pick some internal parasites or parasites because they are constantly in the pen. And these animals don't mix with other animals which are outside. That also helps them from contracting diseases from other animals and that sort of thing.
When you travel with Ben, you sense the warm friendship he has with the people he helps.
What makes me very happy is going out in the field, meeting these people, talking to them, seeing their problems and solving the problems together.
Although the goal of the animal husbandry program is to prepare animals for market, Ben is wise enough to know a farmer needs to view his livestock as more than just a commodity.
It's very important that the farmer and the animals know each other well. And the farmer must love his animals, and animals love him too. This way, the farmer has got a good knowledge of his animals, whether they are sick or not. And it is part of our training that all farmers must take care of their animals. In most cases, animals take care of their, of themselves, and not much attention is given by farmers.
Ben also works with tree farmers. These are eucalyptus trees. In preparation for the dry winter season, Ben shows the farmer and workers how to prepare seedling beds to capture whatever rain may fall. The eucalyptus grow quickly, and in a country where mature trees are scarce, the farmer can earn a relatively quick return on his investment. These trees will sell for $5 each, a good income for this family. Farmers can also register for courses offered by Ben at the Marimi Training Center at the Salvation Army Howard Hospital. But it's in the field, hands-on, Ben is at his best. Here, working with a cotton farmer.
We're going to inspect this cotton here, you see what sort of insect pest we have, and then find out what sort of chemical we can use to kill the pest.
Ben's commitment to helping farmers comes from a greater commitment to Jesus Christ. He's an active member of the Salvation Army Miatura Corps, where he is assistant treasurer. His agricultural extension work is much deeper than the soil he tills.
As Jesus said to Peter, "Feed my sheep," I've got a feeling that we have to feed them physically first before we feed them spiritually, because we cannot talk to a hungry person. If you see a person who is hungry, feed him. If you see someone who is cold, cover him up. It's very important that we work with these people physically and then with them spiritually.
Ben's work is so successful, government officials are using it as a model for similar programs throughout Zimbabwe.
I would like to see everybody becoming self-sufficient in food production. I would like to see people becoming well-developed. As part of, the church's mission, and me being a part and parcel of the whole thing, I would like to see a total development of the whole man. That is, physically, spiritually, materially, and everything. So we have got a whole man there who is complete. Who has got, who is well-fed spiritually, who is well-fed physically. And once that is done, well, then my mission is over.
Ben's love for the land and his country is surpassed only by his love for God. He is making a difference in the lives of those he works with, a difference that affects both this life and the next.
the essence of the African experience, balanced precariously on the edge of extinction. Zimbabwe has taken the initiative, establishing reserves for the quickly vanishing wildlife, where animals roam freely without fear of poachers. Natural wonders are protected from vandals. An important part of Africa preserved for future generations. Generations the Salvation Army is doing all it can to ensure are there to enjoy their natural heritage.
Listen. Listen closely. A baby cries at Howard Hospital. In many parts of the world, a baby's cry means sadness. But in rural Zimbabwe, it means life. Howard is the lifeblood for thousands of villagers who live in the surrounding area. Some come here to sell fruit and sugarcane. Others pick up bread and other essential items. But for more than 50,000 people a year, the hospital provides the much-needed medical help that would otherwise not be available. Facilities are good considering the hospital's location. There are wards for men and women, each with 26 beds. The children's ward contains 62 beds. There is also a maternity ward and neonatal isolation area. A lab provides a varied range of tests. The surgical facilities are capable of handling most procedures. With an estimated 80,000 people living in the Chiweshe district, the 180-bed hospital stays busy. Yet emergency medical care, such as setting fractures, is not the only free service provided by the staff made up of Salvation Army officers and trained government employees. Maybe the most important care of all is given to the future of the country, the children. Howard Hospital begins caring for the young before birth. Nurses offer prenatal care to the expectant mother. This includes examinations as well as classes on nutrition. Vision Village is an on-site complex for mothers-to-be, where the women in the last stages of pregnancy await the new baby. Located inside the hospital compound, Vision Village provides shelter and easy access to the medical facilities. With more than 1,200 births a year at Howard, it is not uncommon for one of the doctors to be awakened at home by a nurse lightly rapping at the bedroom window, informing him he is needed for yet another delivery. After the child is born, there are more classes on nutrition and care for the new arrival. The nurses continue with physical checkups of the mother to ensure her well-being. Soon after birth, a regular schedule of immunizations begins to protect the child from the many diseases that claim so many young lives in this part of the world. Mothers are taught to keep accurate records of the baby's progress.
This card has saved more lives than anything else in the world as far as the third world is concerned. It contains not only the child's record as far as immunizations, but also their weight record. Most of the children around here, they grow. This is the weight up here, and these are the months from birth, and then their first year of life, second year of life, third year. Most of them are above this line. This line is one that we use to register malnutrition. Most of them are well developed up until the time they're about 18 months of age. At this point, a number of things can happen. For some reason, usually the mother stops breastfeeding, and that's the main source of nutrition and protection for the child. But for whatever reason, suddenly the weight drops. So we have a record, we know what happened, why and when.
But even with proper teaching and follow-up by the staff at Howard, malnutrition is still one of the major causes of death among children in this part of Zimbabwe. Due to an unbalanced diet, the doctors constantly face the task of treating malnourished children. Some cases are so severe the child lives in constant pain.
But you can see the swelling all over the body. He had much more swelling than before, and his skin has completely peeled off up and down his arms and his legs. And he's miserable. When they learn to smile, we can send them back home again.
If a child is brought in for treatment, the mother stays alongside her baby. This provides nurses the opportunity to serve nourishing meals to both child and mother. The government provides $1 per patient per day, so food supplies are carefully managed. For those who are hungry, this meal is a feast, but for others, it may never be enough. But what about those too far away to be brought to the hospital for regular care? The answer is found in Howard's mobile clinic, which visits 34 different centers in the surrounding countryside. Each month, mothers and children wait patiently under the shade trees for the arrival of the nurses. Out of the searing heat of the Zimbabwe sun, nurses practice preventive medicine instead of treatment. Like the programs at the hospital, there are lectures on nutrition and hygiene. They are taught how to maintain safe water supplies and sanitation. The important process of postnatal care is followed in the remote areas as well, including the ever-important immunization program. Without the mobile clinic, these people would never receive essential health instruction. They would simply die because no one had taken the time to care. Howard's mobile clinic provides the care and concern so desperately needed here, so many miles from the city. Under the watchful eye of God, the doctors and nurses of Howard Hospital go about the unending task of providing care for those who need help, physically and spiritually. Is there a way to explain the devotion of those who administer care? 2 Salvation Army doctors each see as many as 30 to 40 patients a day. Many are the victims of violence caused by alcoholism. As Salvation Army officers, the doctors and nurses do not receive the large salaries available in Western hospitals. Instead, they work feverishly to care for those God has entrusted to them. Their only reward is the satisfaction of helping a fellow man and doing God's work. And miracles do happen. A little girl walks to her mother after leg surgery. A boy with a broken wrist goes home, the bone properly set, avoiding deformity. A child diagnosed with malaria and malnutrition is pronounced healthy. And listen closely. A baby cries at Howard Hospital. The future of Zimbabwe lives on.
As the Salvation Army marches into its 2nd century of commitment and service to Zimbabwe, it moves forward with vision for new areas of ministry.
A child plays on a street corner in Mbare, just one of a multitude of children lost in the mass of humanity that makes up this area of hostels and Harare. People are everywhere, in the markets, in the streets, crowding the bus stations, leaving to find better work in another part of the country, while others arrive looking to make their fortune in the city. But many here seem to find only hopelessness. More than 75,000 people crowd into the 60 3-story buildings that make up Mbare. In the single-room 3 by 6 meter apartments, you could find a family of 9 sharing toilet facilities, laundry areas, and showers with all the other families. There is no privacy. Most of the residents are unemployed with nothing to do all day, breeding apathy, promiscuity, and leading many to alcoholism. The birth rate is especially high, with the average age of young mothers only 15 years old. The area is served by 1 health clinic for males. Women and children must go to another clinic 4 kilometers away. With no health education, rampant poverty, and inadequate housing, the future of these children is dark. But there is a light breaking into that darkness. For just a few blocks away, the Salvation Army, with Qantas Airlines, is providing land and staffing for a community center. A place where the women of Mbare will be taught hygiene, nutrition, and life skills. Mrs. Beatrice Matsuetu, a local Salvationist, has brought her guidance and vision to this project, the only program of its kind in the area. The clouds of Mbare will soon be parting, leaving a ray of hope brought by the Salvation Army's vision.
Africa is an experience. No longer the dark continent, but a growing force in the world. A spiritual force, where God's love is shared every day with those in need. In Zimbabwe, more than 60,000 Salvationists serve God and their country, always looking to the future, making dreams a reality, working towards their own visions of Zimbabwe.